Hello and welcome to this video that's going to show you both how to complete your tangent line and do a really easy set of calculations, or have Excel do the calculations to convert these pHs over into H+ concentrations. So first thing I'm going to do is actually go ahead and label the column I'm about to enter. So I'm going to put H and then plus. Now I would put a superscript plus or a for this particular label here if Excel allowed that, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually allow that within these little cells here. So now I'm going to click down here into the area where I want to actually put the H+ concentration, and in order to do this I want to actually do a function. So instead of calculating it by hand and then putting in all the numbers, I'm going to have Excel calculate these values. So to do a function, you want to hit equals, and then you can click on the function, insert function here if you don't know how to put in the function you want, but I do actually know what function I want. So I'm actually wanting to raise these to the negative, to essentially take 10 and raise it to the negative for this number, except, so as an exponent, right? So I want to put in 10, raise it to this number. But there's one problem. Right now I don't have it as a negative value. So I'm going to actually put this value in parentheses, like so, and put a negative sign right there. Now one thing I want to mention is, notice I don't have it as an exponent. I got this little caret here, but that's how Excel essentially reads for exponents, is that caret sign. Now I'm going to hit enter, and it'll give me a value. Now notice this value has only a couple of significant figures. I could go to home and then actually click on this thing and increase or decrease the actual number sig figs. That looks like it should be about right. So we're going to keep it with that many significant figures. Now I could go down to this next cell and do the same thing for this value, but instead of doing that, I'm going to show you why I said to do this in Excel in the first place, is because we can actually take this thing, so what Excel did for this cell, and put it in here. It's going to do for this cell just by clicking on this little box right here and dragging all the way down. And now we have all of the values already. Okay, so now that we've got the values, let's go ahead and make our graph. So I'm going to click over here into this region, go to Insert, and do an XY scatter like we normally do, but instead of doing the scatter with markers only, which is a good thing to do if we're wanting to do a linear trend line, but in this case we're actually wanting to see the whole function, at least with just kind of the data points simulating as best as possible. So we're going to do scatter with smooth lines instead. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll say, hey, it's blank. I'm like, yes, but we got to still select our data. So in order to do that, we would go to Design right up here, and then hit on Select Data. The other way we could alternatively adjust our data selected is we can right click here and hit Select Data. So right click anywhere on the chart, hit Select Data. Now we want to add a series, because each series will represent a relationship we're going to have between two different columns. Or we could have this relationship between the same column, but it would look really boring. Now you can put a series name in here. You don't need to, okay? But we do need to select the X values. So we could type all of these values in here with commas, or we could do essentially a range with Excel things. But I always forget how to do essentially the ranges for Excel. So what I'm going to do instead is click on this button and click and drag over the range I want. Now you notice it has all of this information here. Again, that's what I always forget, so I just click it again. Click on the Y values, click and drag over our Y's, and now we have our wonderful little function here. Now I'm going to go ahead and close this down, but if at any time you want to adjust the data series, you can right click on it again. Now I'm going to get rid of this because we only have one series, that little legend over on the side. Excuse me. And then now I'm looking at this thing, I'm saying, well, I'm going to be drawing a tangent line, and if you notice, this right here is the 20 point, this is the 25, this is the 30 point, so I'm going to draw a tangent line for that thing. but that's not a lot of room to work on. So what I'm going to do is actually right click on this thing and actually move this chart to a new sheet. Alternatively, so we've got this right here, right click, I'm going to go to move chart, and I want to actually move it to a new sheet. I'll just call it chart 1. Alright, so now we've got quite a bit more area to actually draw on this thing and change up certain things, aspects of this thing. So one of the things I want to point out is that notice how these markers right here, they're nice and small, which is good, but we also I don't like the color on them. I want them a different color here so that they actually stand out. So in order to do that, you can actually click on any one of the data markers and right click and then hit Format Data Series. Alternatively, you can go into the Format area and then do Shape Fill, Effects Fill, all of these guys, but the easiest way I find to actually get stuff in Excel or find things in Excel is just right click on what I want to change. So I'm going to do Format Data Series, I'm going to go to Marker Options, I'm going to not do Automatic but Built-in. I'm going to change actually the shape and shrink them down just a little bit, and then Marker Fill. I want it to be a solid fill but a different color. So let's just go ahead and make these guys a nice black color. So you see that the points are actually there. That's how I can essentially adjust them. Now, one other thing that I would recommend starting with is adjusting our scale. So right now we actually have a lot of data up here that's going to be useful but for this particular chart. It might be nice to actually zoom in on an area. In order to do that, you can actually say, okay, we're going to cut off some of this chart area, some of this white space up here, some of the white space over there. We could zoom even closer onto this region, but I think that's probably a bad idea. So I'm going to go to Format Axis. Just click on the axis once and then right click, Format Axis. And then I'm going to fix the maximum value. So I'm going to fix it, instead of at 120, I'm just going to go to 100. So that way we don't have that extra white space. Format the same, the vertical axis in the same way. Let's just go to 116. Let's go 0.0165 actually. 165. Alright. So now we have no, essentially, unused space here. And our data point that we want to look at is this guy right here. So we're going to make a trend line for this data point. But to be nice to our reader, tell them which data point we're interested in, I'm going to actually draw a little arrow to this data point, or some sort of indication would be grid. Format the shape because I don't like that blue. I'm going to increase the width of the shape and also change the line color here. Again, in order to get into this menu, I just right-clicked and formatted the shape. So now I've got this arrow here pointing, excuse me, pointing right at my marker. And then I'm going to say, bring in a text box, maybe increase the font a little bit, and then say that this is my 30-second data point. Alright, so we got this 30-second data point right here. This is what we want to draw a tangent line with. So in order to draw the tangent line, I'm going to add it just like I added these things. Essentially go to Insert, go to Shapes. In this case I don't want an arrow, but I want a line. And I'll draw a tangent line fairly decently right here. At any point I can click actually on this line and drag it around where I want it to be. Want it to be about there. I don't like the color again, so I'm going to go to line color, pick a color that seems good. Maybe a, I don't know, a nice dark red, something like that. Nah, it looks the same as the arrow. So format, line color, go with a nice dark green or something. Alright. So that one looks bad. That looks okay. It will look better though after I increase the width of this line a little bit. Let's go ahead and make it a 0.2 line. Alright, so now I'm going to get it fairly close to where I think that tangent line ought to go, but it looks like if we zoom in on this region right here, we actually And we could do that by going to zoom. So if you look at this, we can actually go to zoom, zoom up to say 150%. Alright, so now we're down here. Yes, indeed. So we zoomed in. Our tangent line actually might need to be adjusted down like this. So click on that. Maybe up just a little bit. Maybe down just a little bit here. Now raise it up. Raise it up. Up and down. Oops, I moved the wrong thing. Alright, sorry for the phlegm. I've still not gotten better over this weekend. Ugh. Alright. I don't have a cough button, so. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to extend this down a little ways. Extend this up. Actually, I want to go back to view. Zoom back out. Alright, so we're zooming out. Don't want to adjust up or down. I just want to lengthen this out a bit. Okay. So we've got this. We could actually do a rise over run by estimation, but it wouldn't be very good right now because we don't have grid lines to help us make the estimation. So what I'm going to do is click back on these and go to right click on the axis and do add major grid line. Okay. Or excuse me, add minor grid line. So we got these minor grid lines. Actually, that's not exactly what I want. So let me go to layout. Do grid lines. Vertical, horizontal grid lines, add major and minor grid lines. Then grid lines, vertical grid lines. Add major and minor grid lines. So now we got all these boxes here. Alright. So now, what we're looking for on this line is essentially two spots where these go right over. It's best, and you don't need to do this, but it's best to find two spots to go right on the grid lines. So what I'm going to do is actually take this and actually show which spots I picked. So I just found one right here. Looks like an excellent portion where that line, our line, goes over where the X and Y grid lines cross. And so what I'm going to do is go down to Format Shape. I do want a line. I do not want fill, but I do want a line color. Blue's fine, I think, for this guy. That one's a little bit too big. This shape's a little bit too big, so I'm going to shrink it down. Alright. Oh, moved the wrong thing again. Click on my shape. Where was that spot that looked excellent? Right there. It goes right over a grid line. So that's one of my spots. Now, I wanted to make another one. So I'm going to copy, click on this and do Control-C, and then Control-V. Alright, and now I've got a shape up here. Oh, I made two, so I'm going to click on this extra one and get rid of it. Alright. So, looking for another spot on this line that goes right over one. This one's pretty good, but it's right next to where it was, so we want to pick spots that are not too close. Actually, I think this right here is another one. There might be some down below this line. Actually, right there. So, right there, it crosses over the X and Y values. So, now that I've got my spots picked, I need to actually say what their X and Y values are. So I'm going to go ahead and actually put in another, instead of putting in a new text box, I'm going to actually just copy and paste this, just because it's a size that I kind of like. Again, here's my thing, it ends up pulling it up here. Alright, so I'm going to actually label this particular data point what it is. In order to do that, I'm going to use my grid line. So if you notice, there's a 4.5 here, a 6.5 there. So essentially from here to here, that's actually a difference of 0.5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values that are 0.5. So each one of these is essentially 4.4. So this would be like 4.9, 5.3, 5.7, 5.1, excuse me, 6.1, and 4.5. So for this one right here, we would be at 4.9, 5.3, 5.7. So this is 5.7. But the one thing is, for XY coordinates, we always have X's first. So I'm going to put comma 5.7, or 5.7, excuse me, or e to the negative 5. Now this e right here is just Excel's way of expressing essentially times 10. Since it's where you are in Excel, I'm going to do this one instead. But generally, if you're writing it in a lab report and not on an Excel graph, you just want to put times 10 to the negative 5. But again, we don't have exponents here. Alright, so now we need the x value, or the seconds, or the time value. And so right here we got 40 and 50, and each one, I think there are 5 marks. Yep, 5 marks between here. So each one, this would be 42, 44, 45, 46, excuse me, 48. So we actually want 46. So we do 46. Now we have our x and y value for this one. Going to do something similar here, down low. So I'm going to click and drag my new boxes here. Alright, so for this one we got 0.5. So this would be 0.9. Excuse me, it'd be 9 times 10 to the negative 6, 1.3 times 10 to the negative 6, so we got that. So we have 1.3 times 10 to the negative 6, negative 5, I'm sorry. And then our x value, 20, 22, 24, 26. So we're at 26. Alright, now we have our data coordinates, and we can use the slope formula to find the slope of this line, and then just go ahead and calculate our tangent line. Thank you for watching. I hope this actually cleared up a lot on how to do Excel with not just this one, but other ones. Have a fantastic evening.